The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday, January 30th, 2023. I'm Dr. Smalls, Director of Professional Development for the Maryland Department of Health's Developmental Disabilities Administration. We welcome you to today's overview of the American Rescue Act Competitive Grant. On the panel today, we have Robert White, DDA's Director of Operations, Elizabeth Peters, DDA's Deputy Director of Administrative Services, and Josie Bahena, Business Analyst for Grantvantage Incorporated. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few things about the webinar. One, all participants are in a listen-only mode. There are two options to hear the webinar, by computer and by phone. If you look at the panel interface on your right labeled audio, you can click either computer or phone to switch for the best option for you. We will be recording the webinar and posting this session on the YouTube and DDA website. Today's PowerPoint has also been uploaded as an attachment and is available for you to download in the webinar panel box. Questions can be typed in the question or chat box in the webinar panel, and we will get to those at the end of the presentation. And now I'd like to introduce Robert White, DDA's Director of Operations. Good afternoon, Robert.
Good afternoon, Dr. Smalls, and thank you. Next slide, please. And I also want to thank those of you who are in attendance today to learn more about the competitive grants. A grant opportunity is being made available through the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA Savings, of 2021. These funds are essentially reinvested savings resulting from an enhanced federal match funding for home and community-based services. The Maryland Department of Health has requested and received approval from the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, to initiate the spending of these savings through, rate increases and some identified grant activities, which is what we're here to talk about today. I also want to take the opportunity to thank Secretary Beatty from the Maryland Department of Disabilities, as well as members of the DD Coalition, including People on the Go, Maryland DD Council, MAX, the ARC Maryland, and Disabilities Rights Maryland, who have helped us to prepare for these grant approvals through surveys to providers, to identify critical needs, and by providing recommendations for a percentage-based allocation. It is our goal to release these funds to applicants as quickly and as easily and as efficiently as possible. Next slide, please. MDH is pleased to be able to provide a total of $5 million in competitive grant awards to eligible applicants in order to positively impact people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in the community. The ARPA grant objectives are to enhance, expand, and strengthen home and community-based services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as promote HCBS core principles of consumer choice, community integration, opportunities, and rights. On the next few slides, we will review some of the activities that this grant can be used for. Please keep in mind that this is by no means meant to be an exhaustive list. Next slide, please. So it's basically categorized these sample grant activities into 4 different buckets, as you can see here. The first bucket is advancing innovation. Second, supporting systems transformation. The third bucket is enhancing independence, and 4, developing resources and infrastructure. And today we will give some examples of each of these 4, starting with advancing innovation. Next slide. So these are just a few examples of advancing innovation. For example, developing and implementing peer advocacy programs, developing or expanding crisis support services or systems. Next slide. Few examples of supporting systems transformation. It's strengthening supports for transitioning youth and their families, identifying and addressing systemic gaps in services and supports. Next slide, please. Enhancing independence and inclusive opportunities include implementing or expanding services and programs that enhance independence and inclusive opportunities, addressing needs including supports needed to live, learn, work, or play alongside people without disabilities in the community. Next slide, please. And then finally, developing resources and infrastructure, assessing technical assistance from subject matter experts is one example, as well as implementing sustainable practices to build the capacity of providers. Of course, more information will be available when the official announcement is released on Wednesday. Now I'm going to turn the screen over to our account representative from Grantvantage. Many of you are already familiar with Grantvantage and have already had an opportunity to work within the system. And you may also already have a login for the system. So I'm going to turn it over to Josie, who will speak a little more to Grantvantage and also talk to you about how to request password resets, because I know it's been quite some time since you've probably been in there, etc. You will notice that the flow will look a little bit different for these competitive grants, but she'll go through that with you as well. So, Josie.
Hi, I'm Josie Behenna with Grantvantage. I think you guys should be able to see my screen now. You should be seeing the public-facing page of the Maryland Department of Health Grantvantage. Okay. This is the public-facing page. This is where you will land. You'll be able to access the funding announcement from this page by selecting View. From this page, you'll be able to see the narrative and any attachments that are associated with this funding announcement. To log in to Grantvantage from this page, you can select Login or Apply. Both will take you to the login page. If you already have an account with Grantvantage and you don't remember your password, you can select Forgot Password, and it'll prompt you through the reset password sequence. If you need additional support, you can email Grantvantage at, it'll be applicantsupport@grantvantage.com. If you do not have an account with Grantvantage at this time, you will select Register and complete the registration form. Once you've completed the form, you'll select Submit, and you'll have a form. You'll have a applicant organization associated with Grantvantage. Once you have logged in, you will see the applicant view of the portal. You'll be able to access the funding announcement. Before we get into the funding announcement, we'll be going to the applicant profile. So this is the applicant organization you are logged in with. You'll be able to enter in all information related to this organization, your address, and you can even add additional team members to your applicant profile. So any additional users that will need to be logging in to assist you with completing the application, they will be created here. They will not be registering themselves. To add a new user to your team, you'll select New on the Users tab. You will complete the form, and then you'll provide those users with their username and password. You will also be able to add additional contacts. So every user you create will have a contact record, but if you only need to list people as a contact, they will not be logging into the portal. You can create a contact record here on the Contacts tab by selecting New and completing the form. And these will not have login credentials. In the Documents library, all documents you've uploaded to the portal will be visible here These will be available on your application for you to associate with a specific question. You have the opportunity of uploading your documents, so all required documents here, to the documents library by selecting Choose File. It'll go into your documents. You'll select the specific document you're looking for and then select Save. And you'll see the document is added to the documents library. Going back to the funding announcement, to access the funding announcement, you will select View. Again, you'll have access into the funding announcement narrative. You'll be able to access all documents or attachments associated with the funding announcement. To begin your application, you will select Apply. Select Begin New Application. You'll enter an application name. Select Save. And then you'll select Apply. If you close out of the application and return to it later, this button will say Resume. You'll select Yes. Let me maximize this. All right. On the application itself, you have application tools across the top. You can save, you can finish later, which will save and close the application. You can access the application report, which will show all questions and your answers as you've entered them, and the budget report, which will show a PDF copy of the budget template. There are 3 sections to the application, which is the question and answers, the project plan, which is also called the objective template in the slides, and the budget template. All 3 sections must be completed before you'll be able to submit this application. To complete the question and answer or the application section, you'll need to answer every question according to the guidelines set up in the application itself. The questions completion percentage is located here in the center of the screen. As you answer questions, you'll see that the completion percentage increases. Once the completion percentage reaches 100%, the applications tab will be marked with a green check mark, and you will need to have green check marks for all 3 tabs before you can submit your application. To see which questions you have answered and which questions you have not, you can select View All Questions. Questions marked in green are complete. Questions marked in gray or blue are incomplete and require an answer. And you can also navigate using the View All Questions menu or any of the navigation arrows. On this question, it's looking for a document upload. To add a document to the question itself, you will select Choose File to Upload. It'll show you all the documents in your document library. If the document you are looking for does not already exist in your document library, you will select Choose File. It'll open up your documents and you will select Save. This has not added the document to the question. In order to add the document to the question, you must select the checkbox next to the document name and then select the blue Save button. And you'll see that the document appears in the grid on the question. Moving forwards, on the project plan, you'll be able to access the project plan instructions, which will outline exactly what you must complete on the project plan template. You can open up the objective and view performance measures and grant activities. To add a performance measure, you will select Add Measure, and you will complete this form. All fields that are required are marked with a red asterisk. Once you've completed the form and you select Save, it'll appear on the grid underneath the performance measure area. To add a grant activity, you'll select Add Activity. You'll complete the form. All required fields are marked with a red asterisk, and you'll select Save. And the activity will appear in the grant activities grid. Once you have completed the project plan, you will select Save Project Plan. And you'll notice that it alerts me I have not actually completed the manager field for the objective, the first objective. The system can automatically update that manager's field for me, so I'm going to select Confirm. And you'll see that I can no longer make any edits to the project plan since I have selected Save. If I need to make a change to the project plan, I will select Return to Draft. and that will unlock the project plan and I can make the edits as needed. I will select project plan again, save project plan again, and at the top you'll see project plan is now marked with a green check mark. On the budget template, to complete the budget template, I will enter in the amounts that are accurate on the budget. Here in the direct column, down below, you will see the budget justification and budget narrative. I'm going to enter in my example narrative. I can select save, which will save all work I've done on the budget. I can also select budget instructions to view everything I need to do on the budget to complete this form. Once I have completed my budget, I will select Save Budget, and that will lock the budget template, and you'll see that the budget template is now marked with that green check mark. If I need to come back and make any edits, I will select Return to Draft. That will unlock the budget, and you'll see it's now marked with a red X. So I will save again, and now I have the green check mark. Once you have green check marks across the board on the application, project plan, and budget templates tabs, the next button at the top of the screen will unlock. It'll be bright blue. You'll select next, and that'll move you into the online application submission process. You will complete the final page of the application. It'll be looking for a summary, some additional information. And then you will select submit, and the application will submit. Because these applications have a lot of documents attached, you don't want to wait to the last minute to submit, because it may take a few moments for the application to submit. And if you need any technical assistance, you can email the Grantvantage support desk, and it'll be applicantsupport@grantvantage.com. Okay. So I will turn it back over.
Thank you. So we can go back to the main presentation. Next, I'll go over a few key dates. Okay, great, thank you. And if we can advance to slide number 12, that would be great. Okay, here are some key dates. As I mentioned previously, the announcement will be published on the DDA website starting on Wednesday, February 1st. And to get to the grant announcement, you just go to our website and scroll all the way to the bottom, and there's a tile, say in the middle of the page to the right that says ARPA. And if you click on that, it will take you to the announcement. Now, if you click on it before February 1st, it'll tell you that the announcement is closed. If you click on it right now, it may let you in, because we, in order to do the demo, we have to publish the announcement. But please do not fill out any part of the application, because things may change based on feedback we received here, or for any number of reasons before it's finally published. The deadline for electronic receipt of the application through Grantvantage is February the 28th. Just based on experience, I know there were quite a few organizations that submitted applications right at the deadline. I highly encourage you to not wait until the last minute, because we don't want you to miss out on this opportunity. And now, obviously, if there's some technical issues, we're able to validate that with Grantvantage, and won't hold that against you. And then on April 3rd, we will issue the grant award letters. The period for the funding will run from April 2023 through March of 2025. And so you'll have to spend all of the grant dollars before March 31st, 2025. Next slide. And this is just a graphic outlining the timeline as well. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth Peters, who will go through your questions.
Great, thank you so much, Robert. So we have a few questions here that we will work to go through for everyone. And any questions that we don't address here, we will work to create a frequently asked questions document that we can share out with everybody here today to make sure we get those questions answered for you as best as we can. Okay, so the first question is, will this presentation be recorded? And yes, this presentation is being recorded. And as Dr. Smalls mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, it will be uploaded to the YouTube site. The next question, is there an average or maximum grant amount from this pool? Seems like the average would be around $10,000.
Yeah, thank you. I can take that question. So the grant award limits are a minimum of $50,000 to a maximum of $350,000.
Great, thank you, Robert. Next question, can we use grant funds to develop or secure skill building programmatic curriculum for the participants that we support?
Yeah, that is a great question, and we'll take that back. Any questions related to the use of the grant, we'll take back, because we want to make sure we don't feed you the wrong information. I would also say that if you put in a use for the grant funds that does not fit within one of the buckets and/or is not allowed, we will let you know that, as well as we're going through the process, and give you an opportunity to address that moving forward.
Thank you, Robert. And it looks like we have a few questions for Josie here regarding the Grantvantage platform, specifically questions around whether Grantvantage retained information uploaded from the previous application, and if they'll have documents saved from previous applications as well.
Yes, any previously submitted applications will be saved, and there'll be a copy of the application report that'll be available. It should be under My Submitted Applications, and you'll be able to locate that application, any reports associated with it. Any previously uploaded documents will be available in the documents library. So that'll be under the applicant profile and the documents tab.
Thank you, Josie. And Robert, here's another one for you. This question is asking about who will be judging or deciding grant awards.
Yeah, that's a great question. We have an internal team. Once the grant awards, once the announcement closes, we have a group of folks who will go in to validate that the folks who actually applied for the grant award is actually eligible, and then we will forward along those applications to a group of internal individuals who will be part of the committee, who will start scoring those applications based on the not just the criteria that's outlined in the announcement, and how each organization aligns with that, but also based on the submission and the justification and how the funds will be used.
Thank you, Robert. And Josie, this is for you as well. Will there be any grant submission aids that provide instructions for grant submission, or does one have to be in the grant system in order to see the instructions for the application?
There's a step-by-step outline of how to use the system that is under the attachments for the funding announcement. I think it's called step-by-step instructions or guide. And when you are in the system and logged in and accessing the application, you'll also be able to see any additional instructions that have been set up with the questions or the project plan and budget template.
Thank you, Josie. Another one here. Are funds able to be spent prior to May 1st, 2023?
Yeah, I believe that question is related to retroactive. So a retroactive payment for that's something we can take back internally to discuss to see, what the policy is regarding that.
Great. And it looks like there's a little confusion regarding the eligibility, whether that's who specifically is eligible for that, if it's nonprofit, for-profit entities.
So the grants are available for nonprofit organizations.
If somebody is receiving a grant, does that impact funding being taken away from current DDA services provided?
No, it would not impact the funding that you're currently getting for providing DDA services.
Great. And another one regarding the funding, since this is ARPA money specifically, will DDA be looking at an agency's financial status, particularly the impacts from COVID, or will everyone have an equal shot, even if their financial status is better off now / post-COVID?
Sure, that's a great question. So as you know, these are competitive grants, and everyone who qualifies is eligible to apply. The scoring is based mostly on how you plan to use the funds, based on the criteria that is laid out in the grant announcement. There's a series of questions that are weighted. And so as you're going through the process, you'll want to make sure you provide enough narrative to basically make your case for why your grant request should be approved. And so that's the criteria, in addition to the qualification criteria, making sure you're able to check all of those boxes, making sure that you don't, you aren't in default with the state, et cetera, some of those other things.
Thank you for clarifying that, Robert. There's also a couple of questions here regarding the awards, if the awards vary by type, and if a award can be partially approved or for some portion of the application.
Yes, to the latter question, we would reserve the right to partially approve an award based on, criteria and the case being made in the narrative for the questions. But what was the former question, Elizabeth?
Sure. So the former question here was if the grant award varies by type or focus.
Oh, no. The range of the award, again, is between 50,000 and 350K. And the award is based largely on what you're requesting and how you plan to use the funds, and how that plan, how it weights as far as impacting, having a positive impact on HCBS services, and driving some of the other grant uses that we discussed earlier in the presentation.
Thank you. And would you be able to clarify the difference between competitive and non-competitive grants?
Yeah, so, so the one major difference is we have this finite amount of money, in this case, $5 million, and, we'll probably have requests that exceed that. And so we have to look at each and every request and basically give it a score. And so in this case, based on those scores, agencies will be awarded a grant. But for example, if you have 200 requests, and the total amount of those requests exceed the 5 million, then based on the scoring mechanism, a portion of those requests will be funded, and obviously a portion of those requests will not be funded. And so, I'm kind of trying to explain it in a way that makes sense, but that's why it's so important that when you're filling out the narratives, you really make your case, because it's a competitive process. And so those requests that are more aligned with the grant uses, and do a better job making their case are going to have a higher score versus those that do not. And so no matter though, there's just that finite number of money. When we were talking about the non-competitive grants, there wasn't a competition. If you filled out an if we went in that direction, or let's say these were non-competitive, if you filled out an application and submitted it and everything looked good on paper, then there's no competition. You would have just gotten the award for that grant. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you for clarifying that, Robert.
But we'll do a better job of answering that question when we send out the FAQs, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Great. There's a couple of questions here regarding reporting requirements that need to be submitted. If you'd be able to clarify that as well.
Yeah, and that's why to go back to the presentation that Josie was talking about, where you kind of build the for lack of a better term, an action plan for how you're spending the money and what you plan to spend it on. There's going to be some reporting requirements, like you'll be required to provide quarterly updates on where you are, how you're tracking against budget, et cetera. And so that's one. And the beautiful thing with the Grantvantage system is that you'll also be able to upload that supporting documentation as well to help with the audit trail.
Another question here, if an application is submitted for something not allowable, how soon will one be notified and given an opportunity to adjust their application?
Yeah, so they'll be notified very close to real time as possible. Because we know that these are time bound and a process that we need to wrap up so that we can pivot to the award stage.
Will a scoring rubric be provided with the application?
Yes, as you're going through the application, as you're going through the application and answering the questions that are being scored, you'll see number one, you know what those questions are. Number two, you'll see the range for scoring. Usually, somewhere between 0 and 100. So you'll see that rubric as you're filling it out.
And it looks like there's still a little confusion regarding eligibility, that it's not just nonprofits, and DDA licensed providers are eligible to apply as well.
Yeah, so if you're a DDA provider, it means you're a Title VII provider, and you derive your revenue from DDA, and or you're a not, well, yeah, so that's one bucket of eligibility. The second one is if you're a not-for-profit organization that supports the IDD community. But
if you are not,
you have to be a nonprofit organization for that second bucket.
thank you for clarifying, Robert. Another question here, if you are not funded, is it possible to request the score sheet and or receive feedback on the application?
That is a good question. We'll take that back and discuss it with the committee.
Is this ARPA grant based on past finance budget, or is it based on future budget of proposed plans and activities that we plan to implement to enhance the lifestyle of persons served?
Sure. So unless we state otherwise in FAQ, I know someone asked a question about whether or not these grants can be used to cover costs that were incurred in retrospect. But based on current state, the budget should be based on your application that you are submitting. And so, and then again, once we send those award letters out, I believe that we request, I'll have to go in and check, I believe that we request that you submit a 50% invoice with your application. So once you get the award letter, then that invoice will be processed, and it will be based on the budget for the application that you're submitting, which should be for a future project, unless we come out with different guidance related to the question we received earlier for a project that may have been started within the last year or so.
This is a question for Josie. If someone else in your agency is registered with Grantvantage, can another person be added, and how is that accomplished?
So if your organization already has an account, the user will go to the applicant profile, to the users tab, and select new, and we'll add the new user there.
Thank you, Josie. Robert, back to you. Is someone able to utilize all funds within the first year of funding, or does it need to be spread out across the length?
No, it does not need to be spread out across the entire ARPA period. However, it can't go beyond that March 31st, 2025 date. Otherwise, we'll have to recoup whatever has not been spent.
And as we're nearing the end of questions for today, like we mentioned, we will take some of these questions internally and develop a FAQ document to release that should hopefully help clarify and answer some additional questions relating to the FAQ. When that is released, can we add a section that has 2 lists of examples, acceptable grant activities and unacceptable grant activities?
Yes, I like that suggestion. The caveat that it probably still wouldn't be all inclusive. So, but I think we can definitely put something like that together.
Who do we contact if we are not sure if we received payment from the previous ARPA non-competitive grant?
Okay, that's a great question. So we did not do the ARPA non-competitive grants because we did not get CMS approval to do those in a way that would have preserved the federal match. If you recall, that bucket was a lot larger. That bucket was $50 million, but that was based on receiving that additional match. So we instead, for providers, did that one-time emergency rate increase of 10%. So no one received payment for non-competitive grants.
Who do we contact if we are not sure? Sorry, we already did that one. Will you need to submit an FY24 agency budget in order to apply? I am asking in case the budget submitted is not approved at the time of submission.
That's a good question. I believe that I don't know that we are requiring a budget. I don't recall offhand, but yeah, you would be able to submit what your latest budget is, and we also have the ability on our end to go in and see what we've paid you as a provider from DDA. And in fact, that's one of the validation steps on our end to ensure that you are a DDA provider and that you have received revenue from DDA.
And I believe we may have time for 1 or 2 more questions regarding the FAQ document. For acceptable and unacceptable requests, where would it be located and how would we be notified of its existence?
I'm just rereading the question. So we would link the FAQ document under the ARPA tile that's at the bottom of our homepage. It's like down at the bottom, I would say middle right, is a button that says ARPA, and that's where you will be able to find the FAQ document.
And then this one, I believe, is for Josie. Is there a way to copy any guidelines or instructions to a Word document?
The step-by-step guide is a PDF document. I guess you can convert it to a Word document. And any other instructions that are in the system will appear in a pop-up. So I guess you could copy and paste. But
Great.
there's no generated Word document instructions from the system.
And I believe the rest of the questions we will mostly go back to specific eligibility and what activities can be are approved for this application. So like we said, we will go back and work on that document and share that out. And I will turn it back over to Robert.
Thank you, Elizabeth. There's one more question that is a good one, and it's how do we get to the Grantvantage website? Again, once the notification, the announcement is live, and you go to the DDA website and click on the ARPA tile down at the bottom, it will take you to a landing page, and on that landing page you'll see a link that takes you to the announcement, and that will take you to the Grantvantage website, and that's where you'll be able to sign up for a logon, as well as request a password reset. But most importantly, you'll see the official announcement there, and you'll be able to start your application as well. Okay, I want to thank you all for your time and your questions today. Lots of great questions. We will get these questions collated and into an FAQ doc with the commitment of trying to get that uploaded to the site on the day that the announcement opens. And we look forward to reviewing your applications as the portal opens on Wednesday. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out. I think we have a slide with the contact information there. Yep, right there. So any questions or concerns regarding the announcement, the grant itself, you can send Elizabeth Peters an email. Any questions concerning the actual application, meaning the Grantvantage program, etc., you should send an email to applicantsupport@grantvantage.com, and they are pretty responsive, and I believe we also get CC'd on any kind of correspondence between you all and them, so we're kept in the loop as well. So with that said, enjoy the rest of your week.